A very good evening, and thanks for clicking on to the Tuesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. I'm now firmly in night shift mode, so travelling down and up the A9 last night. Very, very foggy conditions, but also rather chilly as well. It was the coldest night of the season so far, surpassing the minus 5.5 recorded yesterday morning at Altnahara. It was, from what I can see here, minus 5.5 at Aviemore. Certainly passing there during the overnight period last night. Plenty of thick frost in the ground, but fog was an issue driving the majority of the way really between Inverness and the Central Belt last night. So yeah, another chilly one. It looks as if we are going to start to kind of ease off on the clear, calm, cold, frosty nights as we progress through the second half of this week, as we start to see pressure building over Western Europe, and it redirects the Atlantic storm track a little bit further west. So therefore we draw some air from the south. But the temperatures further south last night, slightly above freezing, as you can see here, relatively mild across the southwest and across much of Ireland and Northern Ireland during the overnight last night. No great changes really. The CFSV2 for the upcoming couple of weeks remains very much the same. This is week one, so we continue with the Atlantic flow. Got the build-up of pressure across the top, southward displaced jet stream with high pressure enough over the continent. We're redirecting these areas of low pressure as they move in up towards the north. So frontal systems moving west to east to slow down with the presence of that high pressure to the east, and we continue to see the rain totals mounting up. So there's no real change in the next week or so, but it is interesting the period really towards the very end of the month and into week one of December, and of course that's the week one, the opening week of the meteorological winter of 2022-23. Just amazing to think now that we're approaching the month of December, we're approaching Christmas and New Year. Where's this year went, just crazy stuff. But this is week two of the CFSV2. Now, I want to show you the GFS ensemble, but it is actually updated at the moment. But look at this here. So this is very interesting. I know it's kind of tilted, so it's a wee bit difficult to see. But notice the build-up of pressure. Now we're starting to see the high pressure system now kind of starting at the core of that main ridge, if you will, it's starting to focus a little bit further north. So we've got that essential connection almost drawn, very cold air over the heart of Eurasia. If you start to have this kind of stretched out, elongated ridge between, say Greenland, right the way across to northern Russia, you're essentially going to start to almost turn around. We've already seen that actually, the flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere changing. Instead of it being west to east, we're starting to see it going east to west. Now, up until now, the cold air has not really made it to the UK. The modelling continues to show the negative Arctic Oscillation, negative North Atlantic Oscillation, and the pattern is becoming more and more favourable for easterly winds, possible snow, out of the east, sea effect snow coming in, bitterly cold winds crossing over the North Sea, relatively warm at this time of the year, of course, and we'll see snow. The type of setup that we've seen in the Beast from the East in 2018. But we need to make sure that this actually happens, because we've seen it time and time again, especially at this time of the year. These model runs that get everybody excited, including myself, and it just simply does not happen towards the end. We've seen it in the run-up to Christmas last year. That was a classic example of how things can go horribly wrong. So every time I'm showing you this, we'll always have to remember that what we're seeing in the models, you could have a trend where it's 80%, 90%, 99% looking like it's going to happen. But that simple 1% can be all that matters, and it does not happen. All it takes, folks, is an area of high pressure, an area of low pressure off the Atlantic, just simply to keep that cold air on the other side of the North Sea. And we've seen that winter 2011-12 was a brutally cold winter actually for Europe. But it really is a forgotten winter when it comes to the UK. We had an outbreak of cold air in, I believe it was either January or February. I think it might have been January of 2012, and we had temperatures of double digits below freezing. I'm sure that's the year that in Hole Beach, that's Lincolnshire, I think it is. It's either Lincolnshire or Norfolk, but I think it is Lincolnshire. Hit minus 15, and on the whole, it really was not a winter that can be remembered greatly for cold weather. But on the other side of the coin, in the Netherlands, we had frozen canals, we had relentless days of below freezing, temperatures down to minus 19, even close to minus 20 at night time, and it was a winter to remember on the continent. So all these parameters have to be remembered here, but certainly it's looking interesting as we go into week two, which is week two of the run. So that's actually the opening week of December. This is week three, and you can see here that the area of high pressure continues to remain north of the UK generally. We've got a trough underneath it. We've got that easterly wind coming in the means. We've got an area of high pressure just to the northwest of the British Isles, so therefore we could see possible intrusions from the north, air masses coming round the top of that area of high pressure and dropping in. So that's week three. Even week four, we've still got the same type of scenario taking place where we've got this high latitude blocking. So the tropics are driving the game at the moment here. The EPO going negative, the the WPO, the EPO going negative. Remember what I said to you, the Pacific, I think, will hold the key this year in terms of driving the pattern. Like I've said before, forget about the polar vortex. At this very moment in time, based on everything that I can see, that is not the driving force behind this. It is the tropics, it is the Mann-Julian oscillation, and you can see here that it is rotating through the Pacific into the Atlantic here. So it's going back to where we've seen during the month of September, where we started to see large-scale upward motion within the tropical Atlantic. But notice it is progressing quite quickly here. If you look at the GFS ensemble chart here, we're in phase 6, rotating through 7, 8, and then into 1. And these are cold phases, folks. These are phases that promote blocking over Scandinavia and over Greenland here. And it is certainly very interesting stuff to see. Look at Asia. This is quite an interesting one. Okay, so this is off the GFS operational. Very, very cold across much of Russia, if you notice here. Very, very warm further south within the mid-latitudes. So the high latitudes are pretty cold at the moment. The mid-latitudes are very warm, and we're seeing continuous record-breaking heat in areas, parts of the Middle East, still seeing almost summer-like conditions all the way across China, where we're seeing temperatures ridiculously warm for the time of the year. As we play through this loop here, you see this very, very cold anomaly here. Remember, this is very impressive cold, given the fact that we're moving into the month of December. And of course, averages are getting colder and colder and colder. So to get this level of below normal as we go from the end of November into December is quite impressive. No doubting about it, the heat across the middle latitudes of Asia is significant. But notice the turnaround that we start to see taking place into the month of December. We start to warm Russia, we start to cool the mid latitudes of Asia. And that is a sign that we're seeing the build-up of pressure further north, and is forcing the very cold air into the mid-latitude pattern. And of course, if you've got high pressure stretched out across the top, you then start to see that cold air. So that source region is becoming primed for winds from east to west towards the UK. This is all about the evolution of this pattern and the development. And it's all triggered by the Mann-Julian oscillation rotating through the tropics of Indonesia into the Pacific Ocean, and therefore that chain reaction is set in place here. So I'm building the picture for you, the origins of where that's cold that may come, not will come, but may come. I'm showing you what the evolution is all about and how this comes about here. But it certainly is very interesting stuff to see how we start to transfer the cold from the high latitudes into the mid latitudes. And the Arctic Oscillation is continuously going negative here on the models. Now that is getting more and more negative, and yeah, it's a bit mouth watering, I must admit. The North Atlantic Oscillation negative at the moment goes positive, notice, but then goes quite firmly into negative territory here. So we're certainly trying to seeing the seeds being sown here, folks. The question is, does it materialize? Now this here is the overview chart over Europe for Thursday the 8th of December. Let's go back to a little bit sooner than that. In fact, let's play it through the loop. Let's go to the here and now, and let's show you what the latest run of the GFS is indicating. So we can continuously see this upper level trough here. Jet stream will start to slow down as we start to warm temperatures up over North America. Over recent times, we've had a 200 plus mile per hour jet cross the Atlantic. The reason why, bitterly cold Arctic air into North America, meeting tropical air coming out of the Caribbean. That enhances the strength of the jet stream. That jet stream roars across the Atlantic, then starts to slow down these areas of low pressure with the resistance of high pressure to the east over the continent. Then, of course, as these areas of low pressure, instead of going west to east, the fronts rattling through quickly, they get slowed down as they approach and feel the high pressure to the east. Those slowing down frontal systems then drop more rain over a longer period of time, and it certainly looks on the table anyway to be some very interesting things to come here. But we'll play through the loop. You can see here this upper level trough, these areas of low pressure simply cycling in place around that upper level wheel of low pressure, that circulation in the upper atmosphere. And we continue to see wind and rain, but also milder conditions because we are starting to see the flow coming in from the south and southwest. Continue to play right the way through the weekend here. More rain in the offing here, but keep your eyes to the northeast of the continent here. We're starting to see heights coming up, and therefore we are going to start to see changes taking place. That area of high pressure goes into the 1050s in millibars, very strong. Watch how it starts to build westwards here. So we've got retrogression and the upper level flow starts to change. So there you go. There's the area of high pressure starting to build across the top. Watch the isobars underneath that area of high pressure. They're starting to transport cold air from deep within the continent of Asia and Eurasia. We're starting to see that cold air coming underneath and towards the British Isles here. Let's have a look at the 850 temperatures, and you can see what the source of air we are talking about. Siberian origin air is on the table here, and you can see the 850 temperatures, very, very significant indeed. Would that not be amazing to see? The downside, however, is the fact that this is going to hit people's pockets, and unfortunately it is a bittersweet here. Love winter weather, it's going to be a sore one on your pocket. There's no question about that. This is going to then boost heating bills through the roof, and that is the one massive concern, unfortunately, as we go forward. Looking at snow depth charts here, and you can see that Europe is starting to turn white. The models aren't overly enthusiastic at the moment about the UK, but we'll wait and see what happens as we go forward here. You can see that it is starting to show some snow across the British Isles here. So yeah, very interesting stuff. Keep it right here on my YouTube channel, continuously building my winter forecast, and I will have that released hopefully in the next week or so. So thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. As always, please drop a comment, please like, please share with your friends and family. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button as well. Bye for now.